Good evening, everybody, and how are you doing? I am Anya Homer, the baby reflux lady, and I am super excited to welcome you to this evening's webinar on reflux, digestion, and food. The missing link. I feel like should have some like spooky music there with that, but I don't. Anyway, I am super excited to have you on the session. And if you're here watching the replay, thank you. Please let me know afterwards what you have thought of this session. Now, few ground rules before we go into it. Please, as you come in, if you're coming into the live one, let me know where you are, who you are, or where you are in the world, how you work with infants. I love to have this conversation. Please use the chat box. There's also a Q&A box. You can also raise your hand as well. I may not be able to see it because there are so many people online, but I will click through them. We're also going to be using polls. The more interaction we get, the better the whole learning experience is. So please, as we go through this, use the chat box, use the Q&A box, and I just want to know what you think of this information. If it's new, if you agree, if you disagree, if you think I'm completely off my nutter, or if you think that I'm right on, bang on point, it's all good. So that's first. Secondly, if you want to share on social media that you are here, please do. Feel free to take screenshots, photos, etc. All I do is I ask that you can tag me. I am the Baby Reflux Lady on Facebook and Baby Reflux Lady on Instagram and Twitter. And if you share me in your stories, I will share you in my stories. This information is so important. So important. I just cannot emphasize it enough. And I'm going to do my best as we go through to keep an eye on the chat box. I apologize if I get distracted by it. Those of you who are here live, you can see the chat box, I hope. Let me know, actually, if you can see the chat box. Welcome to people who are continuing to join. It's absolutely amazing that you're here. And please, just use the chat box. Let's just make this interactive session. Now, what we're going to be talking about tonight, I need to move this so I can see my slides. The 3 big mistakes being made around infant nutrition. Okay, we're going to be talking about the infant digestive development. We're going to be talking about breastfeeding elimination diets. We're going to be talking about the impact that adult medications have on infants. Okay. Yes, Luca, thank you very much. Welcome to everybody else joining from Edinburgh, from Essex, from Ireland. We've got people everywhere. Hey, Donna. Donna's on the call. I'll introduce you to Donna later on as well this evening. Briefly, I'm Anya Homer. Smiles in the States. I am from Ireland, but I actually live in the UK, about an hour from London. Pretty hot at the minute, so if you see me drinking water or fanning myself, by the way, I have a fan on. Is it too loud? Let me know. If I turn it off, is that better? I've just realized I was competing with the fan. Hey Tina, hey Julie, hey Samantha. It's fun. You couldn't hear the fan at all. Brilliant. Oh, thank you, because it's absolutely melting here. And if I open the big window, got a small window open, if I open the big window, I'll just be eaten alive by mosquitoes, which is unpleasant for me, and I'll be jumping around and it wouldn't be pretty. So I'm Anya Homer. I am the mom of 2, which is amazing. They are 6.5 and 8.5 now. So they are well and truly past their reflux days. More or less. I'm not going to go into our journey. I recorded a video and sent it out yesterday, day before. If you didn't see that, let me know. We can also send a link to it again. But you guys are not here to hear my story. My story is an important part of why I'm here and why I do what I do. But it's not what I'm going to spend the time talking about this evening. As the baby reflux lady, I get to change lives on a daily basis. It's absolutely incredible. By the way, if I put my notes there, I have a stack load of notes, people. Stack load, because there's so much to go through. If I put my notes there, can you still Hear me. Again, comments would be great. So I'm looking sideways because my comments are different screen. Brilliant. I did this before and I realized my notes were all over it and the microphone's like, that's disastrous. Anyway, as the baby reflux lady, I get to change lives. And I've helped thousands of families with the work that I've done, help them have a shorter experience of reflux, to create the space for joy in their families that reflux so often robs them from, essentially. Now, as a company, we're the Baby Reflux Lady Limited. I have some of the most incredible people who work with me and people who've trained with me and come into the brand. But as a company, we have 4 values. It's really important for me to share this with you. The values are joy, compassion, integrity, and excellence. These values run through absolutely everything that we do. Good morning, Australia. How are you doing? And me, my team, and the graduates of the courses that I teach use these values in how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other in our communities, and how we treat our clients. It's really important. Being a baby reflux lady is the most incredible job I have ever had. I've had a few, and I get to make the most positive, life-changing differences to people's lives on a daily basis. It's taken me way beyond where I thought it would when I started this 5 years ago. It's a global issue. The silent reflux epidemic that no one is talking about is a global issue. Like, forget the pandemic. Give me a guess in the chat box. How many babies do you think experience reflux every year? Give me some guesses. Let's get the numbers going. I will often sing and dance 50%, a third. They're great percentages. They're kind of accurate. 60% Kate, interesting. 30%, these days around 80%, Sharon. It all's underreported, 50%, 80%. These are all great. How many actual babies do we think that translate to? So I did a bit of research last year. The UK, the US, and Ireland all estimate about 50% of babies born. Okay, in the US, in Australia, New Zealand, their official rates are about 20%. Aisling has said it's underreported. 100%, it's underreported. We don't know if doctors who say your baby's just colicky are reported as having reflux or not, or even captured as having colic. We actually don't know for how many parents who are sent away from the doctors being told that their baby's crying is normal. They just need to get used to being a parent because this is what it is now, which is what I was told a few times. Is that reported as reflux because it's not even diagnosed as reflux? 500,000 a year, Kirsty Rose. We're a little bit low in the ballpark. Bit of numbers that I did on 50% in Ireland, UK, and the US. I didn't even look at China. I didn't really look at Middle East. 5 out of 10 that you see, Dory, so that's half. I added up the numbers and the stats and the death, not the death rate, Jesus, what am I talking about? The birth rate in these countries, and I got to 2.78 million. That's not including China, India, most of Middle East, Japan, Russia, places of really high birth rates. We're talking over 3 million babies every year getting reflux. So let's assume that, finger in the air, some of them are going to be multiples. So let's assume that somewhere between 2.5 million families affected by reflux every year. And the numbers are rising. So a few of you have said like 60, 70, 80% as your guess, an estimate of kids getting reflux. That doesn't surprise me, especially in light of the last 18 months of lockdown. Some of the parents that certified baby reflux ladies of mine who get the joy now of working in person with clients, some of the kids they see, it's their first trip out of the house at 9 months, their first time to meet anybody else. The stress levels of parents are extreme. The worry is extreme. Apologize a moment. I have to disappear and close my window because there's mosquitoes coming in. And I do not like mosquitoes. Apparently, they love me. It's a disastrous situation to be loved by mosquitoes, really, especially when you have like the most horrific, I just react to them so badly. Anyway, the numbers are rising. You're absolutely right. The work that I do is so, so important. And I am incredibly passionate about it. I work holistically to understand the underlying cause of reflux with every child on a case-by-case basis. If you've seen any of my previous webinars, if you've looked at my Instagram or social media stuff, you might see some of the posts on the causes of reflux. You might see there's over 30 different causes. There's a lot going on, or that could be going on for these. So I'm going to share some 3 big mistakes and the evidence. And in an hour's time, I'm going to ask you again if you think that the work that I do as the baby reflux lady is important. Okay, so first mistake. There we go. The first mistake is that there is a general assumption that babies can digest everything just fine. Let me know. Do you agree with this? Do you have any experience or observations where this might not be true? I really want to get that mosquito. You disagree, Leanne? Yeah. I mean, obviously, I've just said it's a mistake. I agree with you. But before, I've just told you that this, is it from observing? And do you know why? We get this a lot. Your son had reflux. Yeah. So you got personal experience of it. This is the thing. So much of what we do comes from personal experience and observation. And so frequently, observation is completely ignored by the medics, unfortunately, and it ends up being gaslighted. Kirsty Rose, stop giving away the secrets. You're absolutely right. Immature digestive system. They said they didn't develop a certain part of his food pipe and therefore he was being sick. Okay, that unlikely. Okay, that's not usually the cause of reflux. Obviously, I don't know the cases in this particular case, but it's rare that that is ever what's going on. Haven't come across anybody with that going on. By the way, whoever's here and people who are joining, because there's still people joining, it's like, yay, come on in. Please let me know in the chat box, in the comments, where you're from and how you work with infants and why you're here. It'd be absolutely gorgeous to see that. So where we're going to go with this is the reason, no, what I'm saying, notes, I'll come back to that in a minute. There is this general assumption that babies can digest everything just fine, all foods, no problem. We see it like in all of the weaning guides that say the best first foods for babies. And let me know if you agree with these. Have you ever seen things like rice, porridge, sweet potatoes, apples on the best first foods for babies? Have you ever come across those in the first foods category? Hiya, Susie from LA. Yes, 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 yes. Sweet potato and rice. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. People at Midlands in Ireland. Hello. Athlone, centre of the country. An avocado. Jasmine, avocado is an awesome food. The ones I've mentioned are some of those that are problematic. The truth is that half of the population of babies, not just babies with reflux, I will add, simply can't digest these foods. Okay, everyone is making this mistake because they are ignoring the most important part of infant development, which is what Kirsty Rose just mentioned, the development part. Yeah, infant development is development. We all know that when a baby is born, they're not able to get up within 4 hours and walk like a baby horse. Are they? I mean, to get to walking, our children have to first of all become aware that they have limbs. They have to become conscious that they have, muscles and ability to control these limbs. Then they start rolling over, pushing themselves up, sitting up, pushing out their hands and knees, bum shuffling, crawling, standing, all before they walk. And we accept this development as absolutely normal because we can see it. Yeah. Just like walking, there is a development curve that infants have to go through for digestion. And just like walking, So anywhere between 9 and 18 months to be walking is said to be a normal age range. That's it, like literally that is half a lifetime for some of those kids. Is considered normal. The digestive, there is no at 3 months baby does this. At 6 months they have to be doing that. At 27 and a half weeks, this is exactly what they're doing. We don't grow, we don't develop like that. We all have our unique curves, but we have a range between which we would expect to see these sort of development tick boxes in infants. Does this make sense? Because we have a similar sort of digestive development curve in infants. Some kids will go up that curve faster, some will go up slower, and that's all okay. But just because it's on the inside and that we can't see it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. Exactly, Leon, you're talking about physical milestones on the outside, not ones that are on the inside. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Yin, one would think that babies need to learn to eat and digest long before controlling limbs so they can learn everything else, perhaps. At least that would offer an evolutionary advantage. Yes and no. Yes and no. However, the body has been designed by Mother Nature to perfection. There is a reason that we as humans can survive for so long on a liquid only diet. So Angie, you had this conversation in your baby weaning workshop. Awesome. Leanne, we don't have milestones for the inner systems. I'm going to give you some a really important milestone tracker right now for infants' digestive system. So I'm going to ask you, where does the digestive system start? Where does it start? I need music in the background while I wait for comments. In the mouth, mouth. Excellent. You're all on board. This is brilliant. What can we use in the mouth as a sign of a reflection, essentially, of infant digestive system development? Tongue, milk teeth, saliva, teeth, tongue, saliva, tongue movement, drooling. So, few have been right. It's the teeth. The tongue, it doesn't really change dramatically and noticeably in order to be noted by parents as a really easy to look at milestone. The tongue is there and needed all the time. Saliva, yes, can be used to track development, absolutely, because at birth it doesn't have any amylase, at 3 months it starts to have amylase, etc., etc. However, that's not easy for parents to track. There's no way a parent's going to track that. And it doesn't really do much after 3 months, but yet that baby's digestive system is nowhere near mature. The teeth are key. Teeth, funnily enough, because as the teeth come in, the digestive system is getting to different stages of maturity. Okay? So that's the first thing. Babies don't have all their milk teeth. That is our outside external sign to start watching that they're not mature on the inside. But going along with that is a multitude of digestive enzymes that are simply not produced at birth, meaning that babies cannot break down every single type of food. Now, this is a rather large and complex area. I'm not going to get into it tonight. It's a huge part of the diploma. What I will say is that babies are born as little ketogenic machines. They are fat burning machines for a very good reason. Their stomach digests a whole load of fat. In fact, fats should be a significant source of their energy intake for the first 2 years of life. What about when some babies don't get teeth till a year or so? That's fine. It just means their digestive system is a little bit behind the curve. They might go up a curve like this and then all of a sudden get loads of teeth and jump straight to the top. It doesn't mean anything. Most babies don't have all of the milk teeth until they're about 2 to 2.5 years old, by which stage their body has switched on most of the digestive enzymes and turned off some of the other ones that they have in infancy. It is a rather complex topic to get into. So what I do want to do is actually talk about the impact of making this mistake, right? Ignoring this development curve and the danger of assuming that every child is the same. Okay, there are many mistakes, no, many impacts on health and development of children long term from ignoring their digestive development. Tonight, I want to talk about one area, and I'm going to talk about sleep, because so many people fail to recognize the direct link between digestive system, digestive maturity, and how we digest food, and the quality and quantity of sleep that we can get. In our modern world, we as adults, very guilty, me, of ignoring the importance of sleep for ourselves, often sacrificing our sleep quality and quantity for, a bottle of wine, the newest Netflix discovery. Anybody see that one? Oh, Bridgerton. If you haven't watched it, just binge on that one. It's really good. Our children, countless other reasons and excuses that we find very easily. And before I dive in, I just want to get your opinion, because I have got some polls for you. Can you see that poll on sleep? How important is sleep to you? Number one is absolute priority, 8 hours minimum for you every night, no excuses. Now, please be honest. Some people think it's important, but you can manage with less than 8 hours, so you regularly do. Sleep is for the weak. Life is too short and you spend a third of it sleeping. That really used to be me. What is 8 hours? I'm fine with an hour getting up, within an hour or so of getting up with some stimulants and things like that. I love that there's such a load of you with having it as a priority. That's awesome. You think it's important, Leanne, you're right. It is important, but how do you treat it? I mean, I literally, myself and some drinking buddies back in university was very, we were very much sleep is for the weak. It's time to go to bed when the sun comes up, sort of thing. And life's too short to spend a third of it sleeping. How do you treat yourself? That's what this poll's asking. I'm asking you, how do you treat yourself rather than your child, or talk about sleep to your clients? Jasmine, is so important, but often it gets pushed back. It does get pushed back. It does. But this is super interesting. Super interesting, because there's about 30 of you who haven't answered yet. That's all right. That's all right. We'll get to it. I'll leave it up for a minute. 60% of you think it's important, but you regularly manage with less than 8 hours, so you do. 30% of you just get 8 hours a night, no excuse, which is brilliant. Leanne, more of a priority. Being a mum of 4 definitely comes up more of a priority. But then trying to balance me time, absolutely. I've got somebody in this house who's very guilty of watching television for their me time instead of prioritizing sleep for all the other benefits it would give you. Esther, you have to practice what you preach. Do you know, there's not a lot of people who practice what they preach, Esther, so well done, gold star to you, my dear. But this is interesting, okay, because 64% of you, so 29% leave it a priority. That means there's always 70% of you for whom sleep is not, through your actions, your absolute priority. As a bit of fun, do you know Matthew Walker's book is amazing? It's amazing. Everyone should get that book, by the way. Why We Sleep. Read the section on kids, it's quite scary. Do you know the impact of reduced sleep on you? Do you know that sleep directly affects, increases, and encourages lack of sleep? Yeah, it makes you irritable, Ashlyn. It makes me really grumpy. But it prevents our bodies from losing fat. So for me, I was trying to lose weight for years and years, but I couldn't, because my body was I'm in starvation mode, and literally held on to everything that I ate, no matter how little I ate or how much I ate or how much I exercised. Exercise had nothing to do with it. Sleep, when I started sleeping properly, like, oh, I ate loads yesterday and a big sleep and it burned it all. It was awesome. Regulates hormones, hungry all the time, wake up, loss of energy, regulates metabolism. This is why you have love handles, Leanne. Hey, well, this is it. But it's not even that, okay? It increases our risk directly for cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, heart attacks. It has a direct impact on our immune system, you're right, Susie, on our mental well-being. Sleep deprivation is used as a form of torture for a very good reason. It literally lets us lose our mind. It causes depression. It literally, the lack of sleep directly causes depression. And yet nobody is looking at why extremely sleep deprived mums of babies who have colic and reflux have a high rate of postnatal depression. They're all going, oh, I don't know why that happens. It's like, oh, like the lack of sleep alone is sufficient to cause that. Never mind adding on the worry and the gaslighting that happens when mums go and express how worried they are. And the doctor goes, nah, do you know what? That's all normal. This is in your head. The issue is with you. That's just wrong. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. Lindsay, you completely understand. You don't want to scare mums by saying that. But there's a really fine line, Lindsay, which is why to all the parents here, it's a very fine line, because I'm going to share that result. I don't know how I can stop. I don't know if you can see that or where it is, but that's the result of that poll. I come from a place of being really, really consciously sharing the truth, which is why I do these webinars for professionals, because it is so important for us to start educating ourselves and educating people. Because when we have knowledge, we have the power to make better decisions. It's not about scaring people, it's about informing people. It comes from a different place. Again, this goes back to one of my integrity values. I don't share what I share to scare people. I share it because I want to create a better world. Anyway, I'm here to talk about babies, really. Knowledge is so powerful, Jasmine, so powerful. Babies and toddlers who can't digest their food properly present first as having really, really restless sleepers. Okay, actually, do you know what? I've got another poll. Let me see. Babies and toddlers. Launch this poll. Have any of you, and you can tick multiples on this, how many of these symptoms do you observe in your clients, babies and children, or in your own? Okay, so they don't lie still when they're sleeping. They're frequently found somewhere else in their cot or bed from where they started off. They might like run rings of the cot at night. They moan and groan in their sleep, often kicking or pulling their legs up. They prefer to sleep in yoga child's pose, not post, sorry about that, typo, child's pose, on the front with their knees pulled up underneath them. They have audible breathing while they're asleep, so parents can hear them from the door of the room without going into the room. They sleep with their mouths open and lips apart. So even just like this, lips just have to be a little bit apart. So this is a really interesting poll. We've got lots of people observing all of these in lots of clients and children. This is so important, because I let you keep answering. I want to get as many people answering this as we can. We've got 65% of people answered. The reason is every single one of these on its own, every one of these things on its own is a warning sign that will invariably lead, or has the potential to lead to other issues down the line. I'm going to talk about the importance of sleep, or rather what happens to children when they don't get enough proper sleep. Because it isn't the sleep that's the underlying cause. Just like the reflux itself, there is an underlying reason why a person can't sleep properly. But the impacts are serious enough to warrant intervention before they become problematic, especially when we have the opportunity to support these children early. So I'm going to stop that poll now. These numbers are incredible, okay? You share those for a moment while I talk. Sleep plays an absolutely crucial role in the development of young minds, okay? So everything I'm going to share with you now is all research and evidence-based. So please take this stuff seriously and let me know what you think about it. I'll leave that there for later, just moving things around my things, a Q&A. Will you get the slides, Sharon? I hadn't planned on sharing the slides. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity, but we shall see. So a study from 2011, trying to get my slides to work. There we go. In a community of children between 12 and 18 months, showed a direct link between happiness at their daycare and good sleep and behavioural problems for children with both nighttime and napping sleeps. Okay, direct link on how happy they are. I mean, don't we all want to create happy children? Isn't that like the best world to live in? Secondly, and I do have to use my notes because I've got the numbers on these. Poor sleep reduces alertness and attention, both in children with ADHD and with children with normal typical development. I'm going to stand this side for these slides. Toddlers who on average experience greater sleep difficulties in the form of later bedtimes also have, on average, poorer cognitive abilities. And in 8-year-old children, those who have slept less or had poorer quality sleep had lower test scores in cognitive tasks. Jessica, speech and language therapist who work with older children, just so happen not to sleep well, still on reflux meds and have steroid cream for bad skin. No one considers the foods might be causing it. Could be so much. Sometimes it's food. It might not always be food. It could be other things of reflux that have been going on and not resolved. This is why it's so important to take full case histories for every child and see what their unique pathway is. Next one, mood. I think we all know, but this affects us all. But the Finnish study from 2016 shows a direct link between sleep problems and low mood in children between 4 and 12 years old. Aisling, hard to know where to go with these issues. Sleep pediatrician won't listen, refer to my experience. They won't, which is why we work as baby reflux ladies to address all of this stuff early on to mitigate all of this stuff. So the next one, a study, another one, 2016, published by the Journal of Sleep Research, highlighted a direct link between insufficient sleep quality and, this is quote, impaired dispositional self-regulatory capacity on behavioral and emotional regulation, which is then made basically resiliency, which is then made even worse in high-risk homes where one or more parent has mental health challenges or history of substance abuse. Good napping is connected with a toddler's ability to grow their vocabulary. That was published in, again, 2016 by the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry. Another paper in 2004, published in Early Human Development, concluded that, and this is quote, more motor activity in sleep and more sleep patterns were moderately associated with lower mental development index scores in babies of only 10 months old. Okay, broken sleep and poor sleep quality is having a negative impact on the mental development of babies as young as 10 months. This is serious stuff, people, that we have the opportunity to address and identify early on and intervene. And finally, on this slide, the Journal of Sleep Medicine published a paper highlighting the importance between sleep and growth in the first 2 years of life, with reduced sleep being less than 12 hours a day by 3 months, being connected with both lower body length and higher BMI. And these impacts in infancy translate into adulthood and childhood and adult life. I will highlight this one on BMI in a moment because it's extremely, extremely important, okay? It's kind of a so what. What then happens when children don't get enough sleep? Like, it's not enough that they're not getting enough both quality and quantity sleep. Not only is their development at risk, they're also more likely to exhibit behaviors than mood swings between grumpy and hyperactive that mimic ADHD. Those mood swings I spoke about earlier. This all too often gets misdiagnosed and children are medicated for ADHD when in fact what they actually have is chronic sleep deprivation. In fact, 70% of children with ADHD have sleep disorders. So I ask you, which came first, the sleep disorder or the behavioral challenges? What is really going on? And the connection between ADHD in older children and those having a history of reflux is really, really high. That connection is really high. It's something we look at in detail in the Certificate Baby Reflux course as an action that we can identify in infancy, and we can take preventative actions that then massively reduce the risks of ADHD later in life through education. There is a fantastic chiropractor in the US called Tony Ebel, E-B-E-L, and he predominantly supports children, between the ages of 8 and 12 with autism and ADSD and ADHD, behavioral challenges. And he has coined this phrase, the perfect storm. And invariably, children that he's dealing with, the older children, all have had birth trauma or reflux, things like that in infancy, and poor sleep. It has been going on their entire lives. Imagine we identify the root cause in the first year to 2 years of life, and then addressed it so that through life, this child had less ADHD or less behavioral challenges than they otherwise would do. Wouldn't that make for a slightly better world? I mean, I think it would. Poor sleep in childhood also impacts how the immune system functions. It's been linked directly to allergic rhinitis and problems with the immune system, as well as anxiety and depression in children. There's emerging evidence that poor sleep in childhood may carry future cardiovascular risks in the form of obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure. Okay, going back, looking at that link from earlier about the elevated BMI from infancy and from sleep patterns in the first 2 years of life, that this predisposes children from the earliest days to a higher BMI, which then is directly connected to cardiovascular risks, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure. And high cholesterol, by the way. These are all risk factors. They also increase the risk of asthma and sleep apnea. And I ask you, is this good enough? If we can see these things early on in life, if we have the opportunity to start looking at reflux and the digestive system properly in the first 2 years of life, in a way that reduces the risk of all of these, where are they? All of these and the other ones I spoke about in children later in life. Is it worth doing? Is there anybody listening? It's all quiet. Is there anyone who sees what's going on? Anybody recognize the song? I don't know if there's any 80s rockers here from Queensryche. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. We're awake. We're here. It is worth it. It is 100% worth it. No to the song. That's okay. I don't expect people to know the song. I absolutely love it. It's a song called "Is There Anybody Listening?" by an American band called Queensryche, just like a metal band, light heavy metal, very beautiful. So Naomi feels so passionate about child sleep. This is making it all so much sense. Absolutely worth it. Yes, it is worth educating parents so that we can all take better action for these children, for our children, for the children of the world. Leanne, how long does the baby or child need to be suffering from sleep deprivation before it impacts on them? It builds up over time. It's chronic. The great thing is that the power, these bodies that we inhabit, are the most incredible machines. They're so incredible, nobody actually knows how they work. That's the truth. You ask anybody on this earth, even a brain surgeon, how the brain works, we've not got a freaking clue. We all have one, not a iota of an idea how it works. There's lots of theories, but nothing that says this is actually how the brain works. The brain and the sea are the two most unexplored things we have on this earth. Probably two of the most abundant things we have. So it's not like there's this number of years that it has to experience. These things build up over time. The great thing is when we rectify them, the body can find its proper homeostasis, its proper point of balance. So Katie, totally agree with all this long-term risks of sleep and health. High BMI is not a direct link to those health conditions. You need to be cautious around the message though. High BMI, it is. There's lots of things. However, it is a general, it's the one that is used in all the literature. So that's what I'm quoting because it's written like that in the literature. There are things like, you've got to, you can have an athlete who's told they have a high BMI because they're just literally muscle, whereas actually they don't. It's a really crap measurement. I completely agree. We need to be looking at things like body fat, general health conditions, all of those other things as well. But as a rule of thumb, it's not a bad starting point. You're so deep in the conversation, Sophie, that's brilliant. Would it be longer than a regression? Yes, Leanne, absolutely. You've got to remember, regressions are normal parts of development. The body can cope with normal parts of development, like being a mother. We get sleep deprived because of infant feeding, normal infant feeding practices when they're born. Our bodies are designed to be able to cope with this on a short-term basis, not for years on end. Yeah. When my daughters were born, my eldest, I'm an engineer, I tracked absolutely everything. She was sleeping less than 8 hours in a 24-hour period from the moment she was born. If you ask any sleep consultant, they will tell you that a child should be sleeping, I think, I'm not a sleep consultant, but somewhere between like 13 and 16 or 17 hours per day in the first few weeks of life. My daughter was sleeping 8 hours. And I have the data to back that up. It was just unbelievable looking back on it. And her 8 hours wasn't in together. So Haley's saying 17 hours. Yeah, mine was on 8 or less. At nighttime, we had this pattern of she would go to sleep. She would sleep for about an hour and a half. I would wake up. I would take half an hour for me to get to sleep. So at best, I might get an hour's sleep. Then she'd wake me. We'd feed for half an hour. We'd wind and burp and put up with crying for about an hour and a half to 3 hours. And then she'd go back to sleep. She would sleep for another hour and a half if I was lucky. For which the first hour the first half an hour to 45 minutes, because the lights were on, I was wide awake. My body had to refine its melatonin levels and all these sort of things that we need to sleep before my body could rest. 45 minutes later again, I'm awake, she's in pain, she's screaming. And when your baby wakes up screaming, it's not like they're turning over going, oh, Mom, where's the milk? I'm hungry, give me something to drink here. It's, Lindsay got the same. When your child is screaming, my entire hormonal system, my nervous system is just bing on fire, which I've got high levels of adrenaline, high levels of cortisol circulating. I can't settle. So this is unbelievable. It was just, Haley, I was on another planet and I had postnatal depression for 3 years. There's a reason for it. It's just unbelievable, the impact this can have. But that's why it's so important to no longer ignore the impact and connection between food and digestive maturity for infants and toddlers. It's no longer okay to keep ignoring this underlying cause, that for so many children, the answer can be as simple as changing the foods they are eating. Because when we stop making this mistake, we give children the ability to sleep peacefully, to develop, to rest, to be able to grow their natural pace in development. Naomi's got a really good point. She's saying cortisol is sleep's worst enemy. So I sometimes look like they aren't tired when they're actually massively overtired. Indeed, cortisol, also, the minute a child wakes up in pain, their cortisol levels are elevated. So for that baby to be able to resettle is much more difficult. Cortisol also impacts the growth rate of children. Lindsay, peeing day after second child in lockdown directly because of reflux and no help. Undiagnosed tongue tie, no one would listen or see him. The fact that no one's listening, that means you tried to speak to somebody and they basically said, computer says no. Sorry for everybody who's not in the UK or Ireland. Computer says no. It's specific to each child, Natalie, which is why we have to understand. Like, if I had a list that I could give to the world and say, just let your children eat this, brilliant, I would, but it doesn't work like that. Every single child is unique. When we stop making this mistake, I don't know if I have a screen, I can take that off. When we stop believing this, we get to reduce the risk of behavioral problems later in life. We get to reduce the learning challenges children experience, and we get to make school easier, to make learning easier. We create healthy children who grow up to be healthy adults. We create happier families where there is more space for the joy that reflux so freaking often just consumes all that space. We also reduce the pressure on the healthcare systems. And nobody is talking about the wider economic benefits associated with a healthier population, or with parents who aren't postnatally depressed, or with parents who aren't so sleep deprived they physically can't work, or they're dangerous to drive. Cheryl's saying the pediatrician was upset that I started making your own formula when this child could not digest anything on the market. Yeah. Because the formulas on the market are not, they're not unique. We cannot change them. We equally cannot source where those ingredients come from in most cases. Alison said a pediatrician tried to blame you, saying you're an anxious mum. I got that as well. It's horrific, isn't it? I'll tell you right now, it's not your fault. It was never your fault. Never. It's probably why she's got reflux. No, you can laugh now, but it's horrific at the time. I know. We shouldn't have to look back at our lives and go, that was, can't say the word in public, but it begins with an A, it has a H in it in the middle of it. There's lots of words for people who treat us like that. It is blatant gaslighting. It's a micro trauma. It is emotional abuse. That's what gaslighting is. Brittany saying pediatrician said baby might have a mild lip or tongue tie because he's feeding good and you're breasting, gaining weight, everything's okay, it's just fussiness and grow out of it. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Go and see my Instagram posts on the truth about tongue tie. And Jessica, you struggle with reflux, tongue tie, food intolerances. You don't think the professionals were trying, as you saw, we're trying to dismiss you. That's great. You don't think they had the knowledge or ability to help you. You're spot on. They genuinely thought it was normal because you're overly anxious because they aren't trained in detail about it. 100% normal one mom worries. Health visitor told you should never come across a baby like mine and she didn't know what to do with her. Fabian, that's horrendous. My health visitor, my daughter was 6 weeks. She turned around and said, your daughter is the most stubborn baby I've ever met in 30 years of health visiting. I'm like, she's 6 weeks old. That moment I sent her out of the house, never saw her again. And you get, Haley gets a lot of parents being dismissed on the rule that babies gaining weight is no issue. Yeah. Made you feel crazy for thinking there was something wrong, diagnosed postnatal depression, given tablets. I know how many people, like I've had clients and they've told me the treatment for my baby's reflux was medication for me. It's like, what? Jessica, midwife told you 2-week-old baby had a temper. Just lay him down to change his nappy. That's just so sad. But if these reasons are just not good enough, if they're not reasons enough to do something different for the future of the health of children around the globe, I really don't know what is. I know for a fact that it's being completely ignored by all doctors and pediatricians, nutritionists and dietitians, and I excuse those nutritionists here if you actually know this stuff. Okay? The information, even the celebrity dietitians who are writing books and helping us create the most powerful, wonderful, colorful meals for our children, turning us into parent chef, are getting it wrong. We need to take the pressure off and we need to get back to basics, because it's not about making a plate attractive and slicing the carrots this way and making them into beautiful ribbons for a 7 or 17-month-old. What we need to be doing is providing food that their body can digest, that is supporting their development rather than undermining their lifelong health. Children who have food aversions have a reason for that. It's not because they just don't want to eat the carrots. It's not about the way we slice the carrots. It's not because it's not pretty enough or it's not colorful enough. That's BS. It's about looking at the child and asking, what is going on here? Why is this child struggling to eat? Why is this child struggling to digest their food properly? Why are they struggling? When we answer the one question that I ask of every single client, what is causing this child's discomfort or pain? That's when we start to get much better answers. Sarah, that's a great question. Would I advise against baby-led weaning? No, absolutely not. But there are elements of baby-led weaning that I don't agree with, and elements of baby-led weaning that I absolutely do agree with. Again, that's something, literally, we're going through that this Friday in the diploma course. They're in the last 4 weeks. And it's not as easy. It's not black and white. We need to understand every single child. Susie, you were told your baby's just fussy and you should show her that you're the boss. And that's just a baby. Found out once she, via holistic intolerance, that she was dairy intolerant. I love all of you people who actually believe your own experiences. You believe what your child is telling you. Jade, you fought from day one with your daughter's reflux. Told her it was mucus. Her adenoids are also coming up, her airway, various things. Told me not to switch her formula. She couldn't keep down. Even at 6-week check, they refused to acknowledge it was reflux, that they didn't want to label her. 6 months old before you got help from a pediatrician. At that stage, she didn't advise a change in diet. What I already knew, certain foods, weaning may upset her tummy. Took advice, weaned as normal, instantly in pain. She's been restricted diet ever since. And you let her yourself. This is it. I wasn't around 8 years ago when my daughter needed me, when I needed me. You know, I didn't have this information. Brittany, you've just learned about silent reflux. My baby doesn't spit up as other signs of reflux. My daughter was 5.5 months old when I discovered what silent reflux was. So I'm right there with you. But by continuing to ignore the proper development and the actual development of the infant digestive system, we are putting children at risk of chronic fatigue, for example. If they are suffering with nighttime gas, bloating, wind, moving around their bed most of the night, they can't be getting into deep, peaceful, restful sleep, which is absolutely vital for brain development. Now that is an entire piece of study in its own right. So let me ask you again, is the convenience of ignoring the infant digestive development system worth it? The infant digestive system development, worth it? Is it worth ignoring its development? Let me know. I have on my notes, I actually have written water because I forgot to drink the last time. And there's a lot going on. Natalie, at a pediatrician appointment over the phone, it's advised to put them down to cry for 10 minutes, give them someone else to cry with. As a lactation consultant, I'll be learning a toolbox of ideas to support these infants and families. Are we covering that? Heather, not tonight. That is 9 months of study. Like literally, I will get to that at the end. Believe me, I would love to just go, whoop. If I could just do it all by osmosis, that would be amazing. But no, yes, we cannot ignore it. Anyway, I'm going to go on to mistake number 2. This is going to be a short one. Going to go through it much quicker. Oh yeah, look, I didn't realize I had the slides for these. So I've just managed to breeze through 5 slides, which is awesome. Look at that, woohoo! This is what we get to create when we stop making that first mistake. Mistake number 2 is that there's this belief, some places, that mum's diet doesn't affect breast milk or baby's reflux. I will say, so actually before I say anything, how do you feel about this one? How do you feel about this mistake? And I'm saying mum's diet doesn't affect baby's breast milk or baby's reflux is a mistake. Some foods affect breast milk, but not all. Interesting. You definitely see affects it. Yes, Sharon, you're on my team. Disagree. Mine significantly affected your little boy. Jessica, yes, you're also on my team. Everyone knows the answer now to be on my team. Yeah, you're dairy free for a year. Your child's son couldn't tolerate sugar, beans, green, other, you cut them out. Me and your Deborah and 4-year-old free of 9 foods because of her IgE allergies. Breast milk definitely impacted reflux. Yes. And it's not, I need to say right up here, mum's breast milk does not cause reflux. Babies are not allergic to breast milk. Babies can react to something in mum's breast milk from her diet. That distinction is really important because it allows us to separate the diet from the breast milk because we can control and change the diet. Yeah, Andrew, breast milk tastes of what mothers have eaten, so anything the baby can't tolerate will affect baby's digestion. Ding! Flavors travel, absolutely. So this mistake, okay, because most parents go to the doctor for help, this is where the mistakes are being made most. Oh, Aisling, if we could just educate the doctors and family doctors and GPs in this, it would be amazing. We have doctors telling, we'll often have doctors telling mums that what they eat in their diet doesn't affect breast milk. And then in the same conversation, they'll turn around to them and say, maybe stop eating dairy because that could be affecting your baby. Like, come on, what is it? It either is or it isn't. There's nothing special about dairy that allows dairy to pass into breast milk, but nothing else. The pathway of digestion and absorption is the complete same. We look at this in a huge amount of detail, and it does make a difference. Lindsay, how long does it take for a mum eating something to an affecting baby? Anything. Like it can be instant because food starts to be absorbed by our body in the mouth. Literally our entire alimentary canal is absorptive surfaces. Not a lot can get absorbed, but a trigger allergen can be triggered. So you can get responses within minutes. Rarely, it's usually more a few hours, but you can get some highly allergenic babies would react very, very quickly. This is why we need a framework to work within to apply a framework to babies that give us a unique answer for each and every child. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, it does make a difference, as most of you have said. And I don't want you jumping to conclusions. You're not going to analyze a mother's breast milk and find lumps of potato or chicken or see how much hot chocolate she drank yesterday in it. You're not going to be able to see that. Oh, Katie, you're ahead of me. Size of the molecules that get through sensitivity of baby, which you might see different levels of impact for some and others. Yes, and volumes and digestive maturity and health of gut. There's so many things that impact it. But what you will see if you analyze a sample of breast milk is the molecular level structure of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. They're complex saccharides, they're amino acids, and they're fatty acid chains. Funnily enough, it is these molecules that then cause tons of digestive discomfort in an infant's immature digestive system. It's at, losing the notes, don't want them to fly away. It's at the molecular level because that's where our body absorbs food. Realize I've changed my slide back. Go back to that. The mistake is being made because of the complete lack of understanding of how breast milk is made, because we're completely ignoring the massively complex system that's involved. It's not just what mum eats, it's when she eats it, how she eats it, how much she eats it. It's impacted by her digestive health, the amount of digestive enzymes she has, whether she's had a gallbladder removed, whether she's stressed, what her adrenal and cortisol levels are at the time that she's eating, what her gut microbiome is looking like, what her overall health looks like. All of these things have a direct impact on a daily basis on how the breast milk is made, what is put into the breast milk, and how that can then impact baby. If we continue, so when we continue to ignore this complex relationship by not understanding it fully and how it applies to each dyad uniquely, we're leaving parents struggling with excessively restrictive diets for indefinite periods of time that are not working, where parents are losing nourishment. They're under a constant emotional battle of trying to do the best for their child, really wanting to breastfeed, and also trying to keep themselves alive and nourished and not losing all the weight in the world. There is confusion, and this confusion and lack of answers or explanation of what's going on. These moms get left with depression. They get ridiculed by their own families. They get ridiculed, and I know that one because of my personal experience. Oh, go on, of course you can eat it, don't be silly. Of course you can eat that, don't be silly, it's not going to affect your daughter. That's just gaslighting to somebody who's already in an emotionally vulnerable and fragile state. Those comments from a caring sibling or parent just don't help. They serve to kick a dog when it's already down. Just exactly as that. Oh, it's all right, it's just a bit, have a little bit. Have to do my Mrs. Doyle advice. Go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on. When we start to fully understand these complexities of breastfeeding, diets, maternal health, and the interaction with baby, not only do we start providing reassurance to parents, thank you, Brittany, we start to be able to coach them through first making those necessary changes based on their unique partnership, and then allowing baby to be in total, complete digestive comfort, coaching mom through expanding their diet so that they no longer are on a completely restricted life that isn't serving them or their child. This is something that Noor Jacob said to me last year. Sorry, this is the truth. Brittany, it makes you feel not so crazy, like 2.5 months as a full-time mom. Yeah. Anything that mum eats has the potential to show up in her breast milk at the molecular level. Anything can be there. But Noor said this from working with me. She'd been surviving on food that was told was safe by doctors, but which was probably causing her daughter huge discomfort. I advised her, we had a consultation, she cut out the foods and immediately started to track her intake and symptoms and saw a difference in her baby within days. Within days, she saw a difference. Hiya, Christina. So she's saying this is brilliant, which is amazing. Thank you for that. Will you be able to watch a recording of it? Yes, the recording will be sent out tomorrow. And Sharon, don't see why you can't have the slides. I'll send them out too. I worked with another couple in Canada. I've worked with couples all the time, worked with families all the time. This particular family, they were in Canada. We had an afternoon appointment, my time, morning their time. Literally, under my advice, mum's like, okay, we're not eating that for breakfast, put that over there, change the breakfast they were having. And that evening, mum's diet changed, daughter's diet changed. I was getting text messages at midnight our time, so it was 7 or 8 their time, saying, what have you done to our child? She's been asleep for 2 hours. She's not moving anywhere. We're like, we can't even hear her breathing. Like, to know she's alive, we have to sneak in and look at her and see, is her chest moving? I'm like, well, I haven't done anything because I'm in the UK and you're in Canada. You've done it. I was just given some advice. And the changes they made in that day were life-changing. You know, these parents literally sat up all night, were exhausted the next day because they were watching their daughter sleep all night, because it was such a shock to their system to get that change. Naomi, I cannot possibly give links to this sort of stuff. Nutrition is so important to be done on a unique case-by-case basis. There is no such thing as a list that can be safe. And from an integrity point of view, I cannot just give lists of food out. And Julie, we do, but I don't start with allergens. Again, there's a whole reason around this about what we do and why we do it. Again, it's integrity. You have to have the full knowledge, because if things don't go right, if somebody reacts to something badly, you need to be in a space where you're able to support them through that. Yeah, it's not about, I heard this somewhere, do that. The third mistake, this is a big one, and it's about the impact of using gastric acid suppression medications. So I'll come back. Katie, can you put that question into the Q&A box, and I'll address it later. The third big mistake is being used by the impact of gastric acid medications, those used to treat infant reflux, on the nutritional development of infants and toddlers. So we're talking about the classes of medication that are PPIs, so proton pump inhibitors, which are any of the medications where the active ingredient ends in prazole. So omeprazole, esomeprazole, which is Nexium, lansoprazole, pantoprazole, rabeprazole, those ones. Also included in the impacts of this are medications such as the H2RA blockers, so histamine 2 receptor antagonists. It used to be ranitidine, it's been off the shelf for nearly 2 years now. Most countries, I know South Africa, it's still on the shelves, even though there was basically a carcinogenic contamination scare, and it hasn't been put back on the shelves. But there are, famotidine has been using in the famotidine has been used in the US now in a lot of clients that I'm working with. So doctors, pediatricians, nutritionists, dietitians, allergists seem to be completely ignoring how gastric acid suppression medications chemically alters how the digestive system works. They seem to be casting blatant disregard toward any long-term consequences and impacts of using these medications, or even conversations about the impact of these medications on the cognitive, emotional, physical development of vulnerable children. We're witnessing this in the daily practicing of prescribing medications that are not even licensed for use in this infant population, and in how parents are then scared to change the medications or to go back to the doctor even when the medications aren't working or where they're making things worse. Doctors are saying things like, baby doesn't really need to sleep. If they're not sleeping, they don't need it. That's not true. Babies do sleep. Baby do need to sleep. They just sleep differently to adults. Sharon, they ignore the effects of the meds, full stop. Yes, they do. But there's far too many impacts to go through to just have it done in this webinar, my dear. It might seem a little bit conspiracy theory, but I suspect that the side effects and impacts are being passed a blind eye to because it's a bit too difficult to rock the boat. In fact, a doctor who doesn't follow the rules risks being struck off. So they're a little bit between a rock and a hard place. Samantha, pediatrician, put a 3-month-old on lansoprazole, scared for its side effects, but also her reflux getting worse by stopping the medication. What we need to do is address what is causing the reflux, address the reflux. Medications don't address the underlying cause of reflux. Jade, you were prescribed, your baby was prescribed omeprazole in the early stages, became so much worse, her breathing was horrific, stopped it instantly, refused to try other prescriptions, responded so badly. What we need to do, doctors are not trained to look at reflux holistically. They're not trained to look at the cause. They don't know the causes, so they cannot do what they don't know. Okay, they cannot act on information they do not have. They are taught in med school, it's the system that's broken, not the individual doctors. However, it's easy to follow the rules, okay? Doctors are trained for trauma and they are freaking excellent at that. And there's a part of it is starting understanding where do different medical practices have their strengths. Western medicine is absolutely phenomenal at acute things. If I chop off a limb, I'm going straight to the hospital. I'm not going to an acupuncturist. They ain't going to sew me back together. You know, we have to recognize the strengths of each medicine practice. We've got meningitis and going straight to the hospital. They know how to deal with that. NICE guidelines offer, say, a feeding assessment, which gets ignored. Yes, even their own guidelines are ignoring them. Medications don't remove the cause in your experience. You're absolutely correct, Leanne, they don't. So market research, okay, from Mordor Intelligence earlier this year, February this year, published or outlined that the PPI market alone, this is a proton pump inhibitor market, was worth $2,750 million in 2020. That's $2.75 billion on one drug alone in 1 year. Now, we don't know, we don't have visibility of what proportion of this is for infants, okay? However, with 50% of infants in the UK, US, and Ireland every single year experiencing reflux, 80% of babies with reflux are prescribed these medications. That is a lot of children. It's likely to be in the region of 1.5 to 2.5 million children per year on these medications. So don't get me wrong, I'd be a bit conspiracy here, but it's in the financial interest of big pharma to keep the underlying causes of reflux unresearched, and the doctors given nothing else to do except prescribe these medications or wait it out. Okay. Let's get your brains thinking again. I've got another poll. So before I go on to the poll, Katie, how do we advise women on how to find out which food could be affecting their baby through breast milk? It's not as simple as that, because we don't know. So we have to start with what is the underlying cause of this child's reflux first. There is no point in a mother cutting anything out of her diet unless we know with 90% certainty that it is food related. Otherwise, mum will be on long-term elimination diets and it ain't working. Okay, it's really important, really, really, really important that we understand what to do and in what way that we are doing it. Okay, so this poll, where are they? Polls here, polls, right, medication 1. Quick question, there we go. Hopefully you have that, I don't know where it's gone. So, get answering the poll, ladies and gents. Which organ is the fastest growing in the first 2 years of life? Choose one. Heart, lungs, large intestine, small intestine, brain, skin, stomach, liver, kidneys. Where we go? I need like countdown music or something. Doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo, pew. For the tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. We've got stomach coming in. So we get a few more participants answering. Right. Okay, so we have a lot of people. We've got 36% is the highest one coming out at the moment. 37% of people going for the brain, 26% going for the stomach, 15% for the large intestine, 14% for the small intestine. We'll end the poll for the moment. I'll share the results there so you can see where they are at. The part of the body that grows fastest in the first 2 years of life is the brain. Now, can anybody tell me? I hope this is. What is the brain made of? Here we go. Right, let's see if we can. Water, protein, fat. Is nobody going for carbohydrate? I can't get the TikTok. Here we go. Right. End poll, share the results. What we've seen, people are saying, so 60% what? 60% water, 60% protein, 60% fat. We are going to go with 60% fat as the answer. Donna, I love countdown as well. And last poll. Oh, I've just closed it. These all go together in a minute. Stop sharing. What impact do PPI medications have? $30. How many of these? Multiple choice. You can tick as many as you think are relevant. apologies to everybody on the replay. We're doing a live poll. The options are that the medications, I'll go through it actually in a minute because I'll keep you that answering for a minute because there's quite a lot of things on that. But the options are reduce or prevent stomach juices being acidic, reduce gastric juices being produced, prevent digestive enzymes from working, give bacteria a free pass into the small intestine, stop fats being broken down, prevent the digestion of proteins, and stop carbohydrates from being digested. So I think people are still reading them. We're still getting answers in. So that is the range I've asked on this poll. What impact do the medications have? We have Leanne coming in with all. So I'm going to end the poll there and I'm going to share the results. Okay, so we have 66% going for reduce or prevent stomach juices being acidic. Tick, VG, everybody, gastric acid suppression medication does that. Everybody went for that. Next up, we have reduced gastric juices being produced. These medications do not prevent gastric juices from being produced. They prevent the gastric juices from being acidic. Okay, it's a slight nuance. We still get gastric juices, water and other bits and pieces, things being produced. They're just not acidic. 49% of people then also said they prevent digestive enzymes from working. Ding, tick, VG. We have they stop fat being broken down. Yes, excellent. That 45% of people, 32% said they prevent the digestion of proteins. Correct. Well, not in infants actually. They do in general. 26% of people said they give bacteria a free pass to the small intestine. Yes, they do. Part of the role of stomach acid is to kill bacteria that we eat as a role of the immune system. And the final one, we have 17% said stop carbohydrates from being digested. That is another Stomach acid has nothing to do with the digestive of carbohydrates. All right. So one of those impacts was that they prevent fats being broken down. The previous question was, what is the brain made of? 60% fat. And the previous question was, what's the fastest growing organ in an infant up to the age of 2? The answer is the brain. So what is the connection between the use of PPI medication long-term in infants and brain development? Nobody's looking at that. Nobody has asked that question. Perhaps maybe nobody wants to know the answer. However, there is a study from April 2016 that outlines a 44% increase in the risk of developing dementia in adults with chronic use of PPI medications because of how the body must use dietary fats to repair brain cells. Just extrapolating that for a moment, that infants are building their brains. What if they can't get sufficient fats out of their digestive system for their brain to build effectively? The brain is about 25% developed at birth. Up to about, there's another 50% of development for the adult brain happens by the time they get to school at 4 or 5 years old. It's a huge amount of brain developed in those early days. So Jasmine's saying, if it prevents fat from being broken down, baby isn't getting enough for the brain development, which in turn could lead to developmental delays. Possibly, yes. But nobody is looking at the impact of this. When stomach acidity is reduced, the fat digestion enzymes don't activate sufficiently, so the ability of the stomach to adequately break down fats or foods in the milk just isn't there. The stomach isn't able to break down fats properly, so the body cannot absorb them. In infancy, the stomach is the only place of fat digestion. In infancy, the gallbladder does not produce bile salts, and the pancreas does not produce pancreatic lipases until later in life. the importance and the role of stomach acid in activating the lingual lipase, which isn't even produced in the stomach, it's produced in the mouth and swallowed with the food, it's completely ignored. All of the evidence shows us that the use of PPI medications affect the digestive processes of the stomach, and they lead to nutritional deficiencies. Jasmine, I agree, it is quite terrifying that it hasn't been extensively researched, but it's not in the interest of the world to research this in infants. All of these I'm about to share with you have been researched in infants, okay? They have. These are nutritional deficiencies directly related to the use of PPI medications in infancy. Vitamin B, calcium, magnesium, vitamin C, and iron. I mean, they're kind of important for growth. The American Association of Pediatrics in 2017, July 2017, presented a paper on the use of medications for reflux in infants. And they said any use of either a PPI or a H2RA increased the risk of fractures in that child during childhood by 23%. If they used both medications for any period of time, that risk jumped to 32%. And the risk remained after the use of medications stopped. I hypothesize that as this combination of this calcium and magnesium absorption pathway, which is stomach based, the disruption of that reduced calcium absorption means there isn't enough to physically build strong bones. Therefore, we see the knock-on impact of increased fractures. We need to be looking at these medications properly. The medications are undermining the long-term health and development of children. And unfortunately, the nutritional deficiencies aren't actually the full story. Gastric acid also plays a really, really important role in the immune system. It kills the bacteria we eat. I've just said that. Without it, we increase levels of bacteria getting access to the body. It can have long and short-term impacts, and the use of PPI medications dramatically increases a toddler's, infant's risk of acute gastroenteritis, community-acquired pneumonia, intestinal respiratory infections even after therapy has stopped, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, and histamine sensitivity. These last two I've seen a huge number of in practice. Scary numbers. But nobody understands why. The other thing that's happening a lot is kids are being labeled with SIBO, and it's not SIBO at all. They're just eating the wrong foods. We need to be really educated about what we're seeing, about what we're observing and why we're observing it. And this is why we can't just say one size fits all, because a child might actually have histamine sensitivity, or they might have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and therefore the lists of foods that are safe for other children just wouldn't be safe. We need to do a case-by-case basis. So Jessica, why do some babies cope okay with baby rice when weaning and sleeping, etc.? They cope because of the digestive maturity curve. Remember at the beginning, it's that curve. Some can go up the curve early and go over, some can come up late and go up. There's so many ways. It's not a prescribed way of doing this. It's also connected to genetics and the A1 amylase gene and how much amylase people produce. I have a planned a community experiment with that over the next few months. But yeah, I have the theory about why that happens. It's genetic based, really. And then Sharon, I mentioned the gallbladder earlier. If you don't have it later in life, you can't break down fats, which could lead to dementia. No, that's not true. The gallbladder doesn't produce bile. The liver produces bile. No bile is produced in infants. The gallbladder stores it. Okay, so bile is still produced later in life. It's just not stored in the gallbladder. So the liver continues to produce bile. It's just not stored and concentrated in the gallbladder. So that's not going to have an impact on dementia. the body still breaks down fats, and the stomach breaks down lots of fats, and the pancreas also adds in pancreatic lipases to break down fats for adults. It's not as constrained as in infancy with the digestive development, where infants only produce lingual lipase from the glands under their tongue. They don't have anything else really. They have a bit of gastric lipase as well, but nothing from the pancreas early days, and no bile. So hopefully that answers that. So these are the other things that we're seeing. The long-term impacts is that we're raising unhealthy children. The medications mean babies are not growing their brains in the way that they might be designed to, and possibly because their body simply can't digest the fats it needs to build a brain. So when we stop making this mistake, we will be reducing these massive risks that babies are currently under, not just from a developmental point of view, but from other risks that go with the medications in the first place. There's a lot more other risks with them. The medications increase the risk of babies getting SIBO and histamine sensitivity. It's just vital that we start to be able to tell the difference. This is a message I received from Kat. She was just an incredible client. Just email landed my box. Her weaning journey is going really well, and Jacob is reflux free. Can't thank Anya enough for the time to get to know my baby's reflux. That's that unique approach I was talking about. We always have to go to each child as an individual. For having my back when I felt others didn't, and helping me understand what was going on for my baby. I hope and pray that Anya's training can reach professionals working with reflux babies, and our approach can be incorporated into mainstream services. We need more Anyas in the world. Kat and Jacob's journey was just a beautiful one. Again, they changed, it changed so much, but Kat had been told that her baby's reflux was a laundry issue. It's not. Reflux is not a laundry issue. It's an issue. So that is the end of this. Has it been helpful? And I want to ask you, do you think it's important? Because I want you to take one thing away from this webinar. I want you to know that we can make a huge difference in the lives of moms and babies without having to be a traditionally medically qualified person, because the traditionally medically qualified people don't have this information. Naomi, just hang on then if you want to know more. We know they don't have this information. Nobody other than me and my certified baby reflux ladies currently have this information. The information is available. Nobody has pulled it together in the way that I do. We're building an army. It's like reflux revolution is coming. And the big question is, do you want to be part of that reflux revolution? Because I'll be totally honest with you. As professionals who support babies, you can waste a huge amount of time, energy, money studying nutrition, dietetics, allergies, functional medicine. You can specialize in SIBO and histamine sensitivity, but you're not going to be able to support these clients any better in 6 months' time than you are now, because none of those take into account the actual digestive development pathway of an infant and the chemical molecular level stuff that we need to understand to marry the two together. Kate, you're saying, as a professional working in the field, taking that time to understand each parent and child as an individual is so important. And it's a big part of what's missing in mainstream healthcare. Absolutely. And the thing is, if we started to do this, like people say, oh, we don't have time to do that. Well, if a client has to go to the doctor once instead of 15 times, all of that time added up would be enough to get to know the child correctly. And then they wouldn't need to keep coming back. There wouldn't be that long-term burden and pressure on the healthcare system. No one else is teaching what I teach in the way that I teach it. You would still have to refer babies back to the doctors for medications, which just continues to fuel that cycle of destruction. You couldn't provide parents with anything much more than words of support, because you fundamentally can't change anything. Or you can step up. I'm inviting people in to join the reflux revolution. There are 2 steps. Step 1, you could become a certified baby reflux lady. Jessica, have I had any comeback from GPs or doctors working with the families you've helped? Imagine they would think it was crazy. No. No, I've had clients who have then gone on and put in PALS complaints to the NHS. I've had no comeback because I'm able to explain exactly what I do. We do not replace doctors. This is not alternative. This is complementary. We work alongside doctors. You know, when it's time for babies to come off medication, we turn to parents and say, right, now you need to talk to the doctor and get the weaning plan. And your baby's coming off the medication because they no longer need it because they're not throwing up all the time. We need to be able, so we do not replace doctors at all. I'm really, really excited. The next certificate course, it's the last one this year, and I'm not running it for another 6 months at least. To become a certified baby reflux lady is a 3-day in-person event. It's also going to be live online hosted. It's an intensive 3 days. Do it. Sarah is saying, unfortunately, it seems the way NHS is set up, medical model is not holistic. So I need to just, there's other ways that baby reflux as a whole is trying to get this into the medical professionals themselves. Caitlin, I am not enough people right now. I am waiting. If the NHS want to come to me, if doctors or health visitors, or I have a number of midwives, I've had nurses do the training, I have lactation consultants do the training. So yet some people within the NHS have the training, but usually it's funded themselves. The 3-day fast track event is from the 6th to the 8th of October. I am super, super excited about it. It's going to be streamed for anybody who can't make it live in person. And then it will be recorded. So you will have the recording stuff afterwards. I've never taught this course in this way. It's been blowing my mind about how I'm structuring it. There is so much in the live event that actually everybody who enrolls in the live event on the 17th of September will get access to the infant reflux awareness course, which is a 4.5-hour pre-recorded session on the causes of reflux, and a deep dive analysis on the recent guidelines released from the NHS, which are seen as world class, and the 2018 report from the ESOPHGAN and NAFSGAN, which is North American and European Societies of Hepatology, lots of things, including gastroenterology and nutrition, and their guidelines on infant reflux. And we take them step by step and look at what are the limitations, what are they trying to tell us to do, and what are they missing. But I'm so excited about it. Then once you complete your certificate, you complete two case studies and hand them in. And then step 2 is if you want to then do the nutrition diploma, okay? Being a certified baby reflux lady allows you to identify the underlying cause of reflux and address that for most children. When it comes to dietary stuff, we need to be looking at nutrition. This is where we go deep dive. This is the bigger course to become a nutritionist who specializes in supporting babies with infant reflux and colic and supported and associated food allergies and intolerances. We'll be starting that in November. It runs for 10 months. However, once you're certified as a baby reflux lady, which could be by the end of October, you can be earning while you're learning. With the diploma, you'd be a part of an elite group of nutritionists who not only support and help identify parents who resolve infant reflux, you're able to support breastfeeding parents through dietary change in a way that I guarantee no other professional can. You can devise meal plans for infants. You can change foods that for babies who have been on standard foods and sleep has gotten horrendously worse and we know what's going on. Through dietary management, you can support babies who are at higher risk of obesity from early milk choices just because of the choice of milk, because of how it's programming their metabolism in those early days. Through simple dietary management, you'll be able to support them in a way that nobody else can. And you haven't, and they haven't found yet answers. You pretty much become your client's superhero. So very quickly, the overall structure of these courses, we've got 2 steps. We've got the certificate, and then we got the specialist nutrition course, okay? This is where you create like little mini-me's. Certificate is we look at reflux and its causes. We look at all of the symptoms. Like we're going through over 80 different symptoms that come up for babies that we need to be able to analyze and see and observe to identify what's going on for any child on a case-by-case basis. We look at the impact of food and formula. We look at the infant digestive maturity in a sort of an overview fashion for younger babies. We look at the impact of living with reflux and the coping strategy so that we can always offer parents something to start doing right now immediately. We understand medications in a much deeper way, how they work, why they work, where they're useful, and where they're not helping. And then there's a huge amount of complex cases, so supporting tube-fed babies, supporting preterm babies. There's just quite a lot, and this allows you to become a certified baby reflux lady operating with insurance in any part of the world. I'm gonna have to move the subtitles. And then that's the 3 days, basically 3 days, and then you get about 2 to 3 weeks. You can take your own time, but about 2 to 3 weeks is sufficient for you to get case studies, submit them, and then we'll mark them and you'll be certified. And then the nutritional diploma, it's broken down into 3 major areas. You've got the infant digestive development, maternal digestive health, and digestive chemistry. We basically look at big areas. There's lots more details on the website on this, but basically part 1 is looking on anatomy and physiology. I've seen the Q&A, by the way. I'll come back to when I've done this. This is not all the details, of course, but some of the stuff we do. We look at feeding aversions. We look at the development in detail of the infant digestive development. We look at the mature digestive system and how it differs. We look in depth at how the digestive system needs to work, the impact of medications on stomach action. Part 2 is the chemistry of digestion. This is really important. Nobody else is looking at the molecular level impact of foods. How do we identify foods ferment in the infant's gut? How do we understand the absorption pathway of foods? Part 3 is nutrition, looking at the types of milk babies are recommended and what's the impact of them. For example, higher protein milks predispose babies to obesity. So how do we rebalance babies' diets? Looking at nutritional requirements for both breastfeeding parents, pregnancy and infants and toddlers as they're developing and growing, and looking at growth rates and obesity and how they are connected. Part 4, we look at allergies and intolerances. This is where we get into the real detail, start analyzing food and symptom diaries, capturing all the detail. How do we see those patterns? What presenting symptoms do we see? And we start looking at the management of allergies and intolerances. The case studies we had in class this year were just a dream. To have a mum say to a class of people saying, the last week has been life-changing. Like literally, you have changed our lives. Until this year, I was the only person getting those and seeing this. And now I've got a class full of people who are just, yeah, this stuff works. It's incredible, okay? Then we go into breastfeeding. We look at breastfeeding and all of that complexity in first. Up until now, we've been looking at adult stuff, but we're looking at an infant. The first time we start doing allergies and intolerance management, we take the infant alone for, say, a formula-fed baby, because it's a slightly simpler pathway. Then we bring in the breastfeeding. We start to look at that as well. And then part 6, we look at special conditions. So that histamine, that SIBO that we're talking about, weaning, introducing solids. How do we start this? How do we change solids? That's this week. What's the impact of medications? Again, now that we've gone through the whole course in a bigger way, this is all leading to then how we support taking case histories and developing treatment plans that work and create changes on a phenomenal level for people. The courses are more than just reflux, okay? There's lots of bonuses. You get monthly support, etc. I'm going to put all this on the website because there's some questions that I want to come to first. Have I said what I wanted to say? The structure of the courses? Yes, so these are the most incredible set of courses that I've ever created. This is about sharing information. This is about changing the world. There are 3 million children affected with reflux and colic every year. Half of children born are affected with digestive development stuff. They don't have to be having reflux as well. Okay? It's about creating new careers, new lives. The diploma, we only open the doors once a year. The certificate, as I said earlier, won't be opened again until March or April next year. So the opportunity is now. We do, however, want people who are right for the course. The course is absolutely waiting for people who are committed to changing the way infants are supported. people who just want to be part of this reflux revolution, people who want to be part of the brand, part of something special, for whom joy, compassion, integrity, and what's the other one, excellence, really resonate. I will say excellence isn't perfection. Check your emails for the link, because the web page is there now. And I want to share a different video with you, because I'll come, yeah, do you know what? If you enroll tonight, or sorry, by midnight tomorrow night, you get 12 months instead of the standard 3 months of the ongoing membership free. So you get to be part of this community of support with additional support for me later. I'll come to all the Q&A in a bit. And if you choose to pay in full, you get complimentary VIP ticket to our conference next year. And there's something else in there as well. I can't remember what it is. So thanks, Donna, for the questions. So the link is in your email box, but I want to share something else with you right now. This is one of the reasons why we do what we do as baby reflux ladies.
I'm sorry for your suffering and all the pain you felt, the time that we both lost, although now you make me melt. I grieve for all the early days when all I felt was fear. I wish that you were better, so I could love you more, my dear. It may sound really harsh to some, that all I felt was numb, but the days just felt like hours, and I thought the love would never come. I hope you can forgive me for not feeling all the love. I really did my best for you. I went over and above. And now those days are over. I feel so immensely proud, but I can barely look back at the photos without crying and feeling self-doubt.
When I saw that video last night, it nearly broke my heart, because actually this is Faye Higdon, who's now just one of my incredible baby reflux ladies. It just spoke to me and nearly pulled my heart out of my chest, because that's how life really is when you're in that space. It's the reason I do this work. Faye always makes me cry. Got an email about her next week. The reason we do this is so important. A career, it's a career as a baby reflux lady, is really well suited to people who are not afraid to stand up for the rights of the most vulnerable. It's for those of you who know deep down that the system is broken. It's not serving anybody except the big pharma and food companies. It's for people who have, or who want to have, heart-centered businesses that change the world. I want to support people who are passionate about infant and maternal mental health. For people who know that holistic approaches are the right thing to do. If that's you and the shoes fit, then please wear them. We have got limited spaces on the courses, so it's a matter of when we're full, we're full. Some of you will know that this course is for you, and that's absolutely amazing. If you're in, click the link that's in the email you've already been sent and just get in, just enroll. The first 10 places get a VIP ticket to the 2022 Baby Reflux Lady Conference, which is an online and in-person event. And the first 10 paid in full places also get 2 nights B&B included with their live event when they join us in Guildford in October. If you're certain you want in, then that. If you really know you want in and you're not sure whether you want to go for the certificate or the diploma, by the way, includes the certificate. It's a prerequisite. We all do the certificate first, then we go into the diploma. Oh, Lindsay, please have a call with Donna, okay? Please put in an application and a call with Donna and talk about where you're at and how this might fit into your life or not, okay? What I would say is, if you're sure, if you know this is something for you now or in the future, just go to the application page, scroll down past the prices and book a call with Donna. Put in your application and actually book her call. If you book the call before midnight tomorrow night, you qualify for the early bird, okay? You just need to have the call booked. Please don't let finances be an issue, and don't be the reason that you don't come into this conversation, okay? The certificate, pay in full price, is $2,999 plus VAT. and the diploma is 6,400 plus VAT. We have payment plans available as well. This is so important. Faye, who just did that video, that went viral. She's had 107,000 views in 24 hours. It's amazing. She is one of the most incredible baby reflux ladies I've ever met. She bought the book last October. By November, she had booked onto the course for January. She was messaging me literally weekly going, when are we doing it? When are we doing it? When are we doing it? She's a nurse. She qualified in at the beginning of March this year. And by the 11th of June, so 3.5 months later, she had already repaid her investment through clients, through reflux clients, and had about £1,000 to spare. Okay, it's not about the finances. It's about following our hearts. This is where, when we work in aligned fashions and do the things we're called to do, everything drops into place for us. You're going to make more about Faye. Lindsay, if you go to the web page, click any of the buttons that say I want more information, bring you down, and then under the 2 bits of pricing with the information and payment plans, just below that there is a button that says to book a call with Donna. Donna's just put in, there you go. Sarah, so some questions that are here, answer live. Sarah, do I see older children? You have a 7-year-old on your caseload who's undiagnosed gastro problems since baby. They've tried lots of meds, never works, in pain every day, having a massive impact on his daily life. Sarah, yes. So in that specific case where it's been going on since infancy, yes. If it's a child who's 4, 5, 6 years old and it's a new thing, then that's not my area. But there's a lady in the US who deals with adult reflux who might be a little bit more. I need to actually get in link with Tama again about that, but she is Reflux Rebel on Instagram. However, for a child who has been going on since infancy, that's where we can unpick, because we need to go all the way back to the beginning. Do I offer training that's relevant to older children and children with additional needs? That, again, Sarah, that comes into everything that we do. So understanding all of this allows us to extrapolate to older children, because it gives us the skills. This is a framework that I teach. It's not an answer. We don't go, oh, this is my list, tick, 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 tick. You've got 5 of them, therefore it's more likely you have that. That's what the doctors do. We don't do that. This is one of the things I were talking to the certificate students who are doing their final papers and assessments at the moment is, we need to see not just what a child has got, we equally need to know what symptoms they don't have. This is really, really good. Lindsay, yay! This is so, so important that we have this framework of what we're looking for. I teach you how to think about this stuff. I don't teach you what I know. I teach you what I know and how I got here and how I think about it, so that you're in a position to apply the first principles to do this. This is my training as an engineer is all about, how do you get to that answer? Okay, well, in order to get to that answer, you need to understand the fundamentals, and then you can put the blocks together yourself. Okay, this is about teaching you how to think about these things. So Jessica, one question. How much is a certificate and then the add-on? So if you do the certificate is 2,999 plus VAT on its own, and add-on is 4,500. So it's an extra, I can't do the maths. It's an additional 4,500. No problem, Jenny. Thank you so much for that. If you want to do the add-on for that, I would worry about doing the course, charging families and not being able to solve the problem. Lots of people have that at the beginning. This isn't about solving the problem. This is about explanation. Brittany, if you're a business and you're abroad, you don't need to worry about that. VAT is GST, it's basically government tax. But if you are a business and live outside the UK, operate outside the UK, then the VAT doesn't apply, okay? It does apply to anybody in the UK or anybody who's not a business anywhere in the world. When it comes to charging families, this is why I offer that additional support once you're trained. We have the Baby Reflux Lady Network. It's not good enough for me to just train you and say, right, you've got the knowledge, bye-bye, good luck. That's not going to help me help 1 million families within 5 years. The only way that the business of the Baby Reflux Lady can impact 1 million families in 5 years' time, or sooner if we can get to it, is by making sure every single baby reflux lady is supported to build her business, to create that change, to connect with those clients, to get that confidence and saying, do you know what? I feel worthy of paying for this. I feel worthy of charging for this. Faye is saying, don't be, oh, Faye, thank you. Faye here. Don't worry about not being able to solve the problem. I never had a client I couldn't help so far, so long as they followed the plan. Do you have to pay extra part of the community? So Jessica, the ongoing payment, so it's because of the level of support, yes, there is. You get 3 months included. If you get early bird or pay in full, I can't remember what I said, maybe it's pay in full. No, early bird. If you book your call with Donna, or if you enroll in the course by midnight tomorrow night, then you get 12 months for free. The ongoing payment is about £30 per month because of the ongoing support that we need to provide and all of the tools provided in the background. I can go back. There we go. Thanks, Donna. Early birds get 12 months free support. All right. Any other questions coming in? Jessica, I've done that one. I've done that one. I don't even know where my slides. I'd have to go through 57 slides to find out the details, but it would be. This is just so incredible. I can't wait to teach the certificate live in October in real life in an intensive 8 hours for 3 days. It's going to be phenomenal. And you'll have access to the course afterwards on replays and replays and recordings, so that you can go back over it. We got workbooks. we've got so much stuff. It's amazing. Anyway, what I will say is thank you so much for your time, everybody, tonight. Oh, thank you, Sarah. So much food for thought. Love, passion, and energy. Thank you. It has been an absolute dream sending this again. You're very welcome, Brittany. If you have any questions about this, please email or book a call with Donna. She knows this stuff inside out and upside down. She's been with me for quite some time on this journey, supporting us as our enrollment manager. So yeah, please, or reply to the emails that we send you. So Fabian, hello. Thank you so much for this extremely helpful webinar. It's given me some great food for thought going forward. Your passion and energy skills. Thank you. This is about changing the world. The vision is to have a world created where no family has to suffer with infant reflux for longer than 6 weeks. Now, in most cases, a week or less is sufficient to see life-changing results. There are some children for whom it's extremely complex. We might need to go through a few things. Within 6 weeks, we should know the answers for absolutely everybody. If you are in any way interested about this, the links in the email that you had almost an hour ago now, I'm very good to be multitasking like that, have all the details. There's a page that you get access to that literally outlines all the detail of the courses, how they fit together, when we do them, what's required. If you have any questions that are not answered on that page, please just email us, just reach out. We're here, we're at your service. And yeah, I'm going to say thank you so much for your time tonight. It's nearly 10 o'clock. Thank you for your 2 hours. And yeah, it has been wonderful teaching this. The replays will be available in the morning. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, by the way, please ping us an email. Let me know how useful this was. Yay, Ashlyn, booked a call. Yay. Oh, I love having people booking calls with Donna. She is magical. She really is incredible. She knows all this stuff. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, all you beautiful, beautiful souls. Have a wonderful evening. I hope we'll see some of you very, very soon.